In this video, we're going to look at how to solve absolute value equations. First, let's just go back to what the absolute value means. The absolute value of a number tells us its distance from 0 on the number line. So when this equation says the absolute value of u equals 5, we're asking what number is 5 units away from 0 on the number line. Well, if we measure this distance right here, that's 5 units. But we could also go 5 units in the other direction to -5, and that's also 5 units because we don't measure distance negatively. So when we're looking at the equation above, the absolute value of u equals 5, we actually have two options. U could be 5 or u could be -5. Because if I plug that back into the original, if I take the absolute value of 5, that's 5, so that checks. And if I take the absolute value of -5, that's also 5, so that checks. So the important thing to remember here is that all of these absolute value equations are going to have two answers. Now, they're not always going to be the same number where one's positive and one's negative, so keep that in mind as we look at these examples. Right, in the first example, we have the absolute value of y, -16 equals -11. Before I can start getting to the absolute value part, I have to get rid of that 16. I have to move that to the other side. I have to have the absolute value part all by itself. So now I'm left with the absolute value of y is equal to 5. So that means that either y is 5 or y is -5. Those are our two solutions there. All right, in the next one, I don't have anything to get rid of. My absolute value part here is already all by itself. So we have two options. What's inside the absolute value, the 3u plus 6, could either equal 12, or what's inside that absolute value, the 3u plus 6, could equal -12. Because if we put -12 inside that absolute value, then we would end up with 12 when we were done. So my two equations are 3u plus 6 equals 12 and 3u plus 6 equals -12. And then I just solve each of those. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. I have 3u equals 6. Divide by 3, and u is 2. Solve this one over here. Again, subtract 6, so 3u equals -18. Divide by 3, and u is equal to -6. So those are my two solutions, 2 or -6. Notice how they're not the same number, one positive and one negative. They're two completely different numbers. Okay, in this last example, we have the absolute value of 4x plus 5 equals 41. So again, the first thing I need to do here is I need to get the absolute value part, this part, all by itself, which means I have to get rid of that plus 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So I have the absolute value of 4x is equal to 36. Now that the absolute value part is by itself, now I can break it into two equations. So either 4x is equal to positive 36 or 4x is equal to -36. I'm going to divide both sides by 4 to solve this one, and I get x equals 9. Divide both sides by 4 here, and I get x equals -9. So those are my two solutions there.